Hi, folks. Welcome back to another edition of This Week in Wisconsin Prep Hockey. I'm Mike Hammett. Bill and Bill Jr. are along for today's show, and we also have a special guest. And Junior, does this guy really need any introduction wherever he goes?
Well, we might have new fans this year who haven't been following the site before, rather than the previous 19 seasons, so they may need an introduction.
Well, they probably still see his picture on the homepage because I haven't written anything and replaced his yet.
Yeah, the editorial content is few and far between on Wisconsin Prep Hockey. That's what the podcast is for. Yes, we have Michael Trzinski, co-founder of Wisconsin Prep Hockey, with us tonight. He was our, if you saw the photographs on our 3 state championship game stories, he was there at the rink taking them for us. He did a wonderful job.
Thank you. We tried. Southwood County Rec Center in Rapids is a pretty good place to take pictures from. You're a lot closer to the ice than you are if you're standing on the end of the clamshell Alliant Energy Center way up in the mezzanine up there. So you're a lot closer. So yeah, wasn't too bad. I had some good games and hopefully I got a few pictures that people like.
You got a couple nice shots of pucks going into nets, like at the right time.
Yeah, and what I was going to say about that is that I thought that I was like a millisecond late on almost everything that I was doing, and that's because obviously I didn't take 10,000 photos this year like I do normally. So, okay, I'm going to take the picture now, and then the puck's in the net, and then you push the button. It's like, oh, shit, too late. So, but, yeah, we got a couple that were in the net. I saw a couple that clanked off the pipes, so wasn't too bad.
There was a very good one for the first goal in the girls' final, but we didn't end up putting it on the front page because that team didn't win, so we had to put a picture of the winning team scoring up there. But that was perfectly captured, that goal with 10 seconds left in the first period.
Yeah, what do they say? Every once in a while, the blind squirrel gets a nut or acorn or whatever the heck the saying is. But I had one really good one where the puck was clearly in the back of the net, and Caden Grant was sitting on his butt next to the net, kind of looking disgusted. But
I saw that one.
That's a pretty easy one, and but
I briefly considered using that as the header story photo for the game, but I'm like, that's not right. That's not.
No.
That's mean.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it can be part of the photo gallery, but it's not something you want up there on the.
Michael, I thought the really nice picture you took was the one where there was the Verona Hudson game where there was a scramble in front. You could see the puck laying there, and you see the goalie reaching out and just like trying to hurry up and cover it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that
you know
was
what else
a
you
great
see
shot.
in that photo is you see the Verona player who's in the net, because that was a 2-on-2, I think, and Verona crashed hard to the net like you showed on a 2-on-2, and he ended up in the net. He was also reaching out for that puck to try and pull it back into the net.
Yeah.
One of the Verona players, I believe it was Leo Renland, was lobbying with the ref. Why was the whistle blown after that? Because he was the other player in front digging at that puck that is sitting just in the crease, but he was focused on the puck in the crease. He probably didn't notice that his player and the Hudson defenseman clearly knocked the net off when they went piling into it. So he's like, why is the whistle blown? Because the puck is sitting right there, but like the net is long gone.
Yeah. No, we got some nice pictures. It's not the best facility for taking pictures color-wise, as far as brightness. Every once in a while, I would see pictures on the far end of the ice. They look a little bit, I call them smudgy, because they're, the clarity and the quality and it's not quite there. They're decent enough pictures, but, not pro type like Tom Brandt would always get, or Roger Olson. Those are some pretty good photographers with good equipment, but I think for the most part, the pictures turned out well.
I think some of that is the limitation of the Canon
the T5i,
the official camera of Wisconsin Prep Hockey.
Right. Well, I went down to Dell's house on Friday and borrowed his 400 lens, but the thing weighs like probably 5, 6 pounds. And I remember we had, I don't know if it was your lens a couple years ago where we had to have the monopod, otherwise you couldn't take pictures with it. And this was kind of the same deal. I found that I wasn't fast enough to zoom it, and on the other end you couldn't use it on the close end, you were way too close. But I got a couple of nice pictures on the far end, but for the most part I just used my, what is it, a 250 or 255, 55 to 250 I think, but they turned out okay. So something for the fans to look at, and maybe there's one in there of their kid or one of their own that they just want to print out and keepsake. A lot cheaper than the VIP or whoever's doing that down there at State.
So we know from talking to Tom Shafransky that the WIAA had to go through a few rinks before they settled on Southwood County. They needed an arena who would guarantee them availability, which the Resch Center in Green Bay wouldn't, because they have Disney on Ice, for the month.
Right.
And there was a couple other ones, and then they needed an arena that will allow them 6 fans per member of the traveling party, which is 29 per team, so 174 fans per team. And they ended up with Southwood County Rec Center, which, if you look at it, Hudson and Verona, University School of Milwaukee and Chippewa Falls, and then Somerset and Fond du Lac, like Wisconsin Rapids is like, if you were looking for a neutral site for those 3 games to be played anyway, Wisconsin Rapids is kind of like perfect anyway. But how did they do with getting it all set up and running? They run tournaments in Wisconsin Rapids pretty regularly, but this is different. This is a tournament with TV and
and this is kind of I think a quieter time of the year as far as hockey goes, because I believe normally those big tournaments happen either later in February or early March. So I think they were fortunate that way. But they talked to Jim Arnold and Chris Feit. He's the athletic director, I believe that's how his name is pronounced, at Lincoln, and said, hey, here's what we need. Can you do it? And they worked wonders. They got together with the Chamber of Commerce and pretty much made it all happen. There was Chamber of Commerce had a little meeting tent out in the front. They were giving goodies away to all the fans and stuff as they'd come in. Basically, the thing that made it so much different than any tournament that you've ever seen, other than the fact it wasn't at the AAC, is that there'd only be the fans for that particular game in the arena while that game was going on. So the first game, the Springs fans and the Superior fans were in there. And then when the game was over, they shoot them all out, side exits. And then after they were all out, they did a little cleaning and disinfecting and then let people come in the front and then came into the arena. So I don't know if I didn't count, obviously, and I'm not real good at estimating, but I thought for each game there was probably anywhere from maybe 500 to 600 fans total between the 2 teams for each game. So from what I had heard, I hadn't gone to any games this year, and I don't think you guys went to a lot, but you're hearing talk about there just being 50, 75 fans at a game. So the stands were probably third full, so there was a quite amount of people there, and everybody had to wear a mask, and the WIAA I think put on a really good show. They did a really nice job and made a good tournament happen on short notice.
About 50 fans was the max for most of the state during the regular season, because most teams were only allowing home fans, and then it was 2 per team member. So you end up right around 50. There were some schools that had a home and away, but there were other schools that had none for quite a while. Eau Claire didn't have fans at Hobbs until into January. I know. So, yeah, this was easily the most attendance that any high school hockey team saw this year. I had a question. Someone answered it for me on Twitter, but I wanted to ask you now. There's a hazardous waste logo on the ice. Is the water quality in Wisconsin Rapids that bad that the ice is a hazard?
No. Steve Cruiser, who is a longtime hockey coach, and he also owns the pro shop that's attached to the arena, has a bunch of teams under the Hazard Hockey logo, or whatever you want to call it. They got a bunch of different teams. And so Hazard Hockey, and yeah, it looks like a hazardous symbol. I know I kind of had to laugh when I saw that. So I think Burglar asked me that, and I just chuckled. But yeah, that's Hazard Hockey. It's kind of Steve Cruiser's teams that he sets up, and they've been doing that for quite a few years. I think I even have a Hazard Hockey light jacket, kind of like the Wildcats jacket that I had from way back in the day.
Now, I know that when
I think northern Wisconsin.
Yeah,
it was a summer program.
Taking pictures of a game, it's kind of hard to actually watch the game. I know from experience that when you're looking at the game through a lens, it's kind of hard to follow. But we're going to talk about the tournament now, and we expect you to, participate.
To pitch in, I can. I took some notes, but you're right. I mean, it is. And Burglar, I know you and MJ too, and Dell. It's like it seems like you take the pictures, and then all of a sudden the game gets interesting, and then you kind of stop taking pictures and watch the game. So yeah, it's tough to do both, and you kind of try to keep one eye open and watch the game, and try to, I always try to keep the camera on the net, but then you want to watch to see where the shot's coming from, so you can try to get the timing right on it, and it makes it difficult. But I think even though we take a lot of pictures, I think I took like 200 a game or something like that, which is not that many for par. For the course, usually it's like 400 a game, but you still get the gist of the game. You don't maybe see everything that you see if you're watching it without the lens, but I think you get enough of it, and I had a pretty good idea of what was going on. I can honestly say, though, if you had to ask me who the best defensemen were, I couldn't tell you, because you really don't get a chance to watch it and to see what they're doing shift by shift, versus you can tell the forwards because they scored a lot of goals, or the goalies because they got a high save percentage. So, but no, it was a good weekend, and good games. And I think pretty much I figured, I'm like Junior, I was pretty sure that's how it was gonna turn out. But a lot of fun, and Rapids put on a good event. Kudos to WIAA and the Southwood County Rec Center and everybody there.
Yeah, you've missed it this year. There has been more than one occasion where I had to actually sing the praises of the WIAA.
No, I actually haven't missed it, because I have watched every podcast that you guys did this year from start to finish. And that's the first time I've ever done that. So, but you guys did a great job with, you're doing it, so you know what happens. But when you're not doing it, it's like, and you guys had some really good guests on, quite the variety, with coaches and announcers and guys that like to talk about Chisholm, Minnesota. I saw Bradovich yesterday. He was still talking about that.
Well, obviously the TV people watched our podcasts also, because they grabbed all of the same guests that we did.
Oh yeah, you couldn't see that since you were there, but yeah, during the D2 game they had their interview with BJ Brandt. During the girls game they had their interview with Mark Thorne. Then during the D1 game they had their interview with Tom Shafransky, and I'm like, man, you just taken our podcast lineup.
Those are like our first three guests.
Yeah, I talked to BJ. I didn't see Mark Thorne, but talked to a lot of other coaches, and it was good to see everybody. We've been doing this for a long time, and same with Junior and Dell and MJ, and you miss the people, and even you guys, because you didn't really get a chance to get out this year and see anybody. So it's like you miss that. And
yeah, I went to zero games.
Same for us.
It's weird. I went to 0 games this year and probably saw more games than I have any other time. Just because at night I'd have streams up like just about every night. Even if I wasn't like paying super close attention, like if I'm out in the living room playing with my kids or whatever, I would still have my laptop sitting there with a game on.
Yeah, I thought the coverage actually was really good. You know, you grabbed a lot of newspaper stories. It seemed like that's more than we had probably done in the past. But that was like basically between that and the streaming, that was their only connection to games. You know, I mean, it's not like we went out and did our usual 15 or 20 a year for each of us and wrote game stories. We didn't have any of that this year.
Hey, do you guys think streaming will pick up for schools? You think more schools will start doing that on a regular basis?
I think that for next year, fewer schools are going to do it than did it this year, but that over time it will build back up to this level. Once schools saw how, I mean, it's not easy by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not terribly difficult. You just have to have the will to do it. I think that enough schools saw how beneficial it is that it will continue to happen.
Live Barn's going to stay.
Yep, Live Barn's not going anywhere. And there's a couple downsides to that, maybe, that hopefully don't rear their head in the future. I'm not going to name specific names, but I know of several instances where actual professional broadcasters who stream online, I'll say which broadcasters, like iFan in Superior and Coulee Region Sports Network in Alaska, I know that they were both denied games because the school was going to be streaming it. Now, in both instances, that was we already have somebody doing it. We're limiting attendance due to COVID thing. So, but if that happens again next year, where, you know, iFan or Coulee Region Sports Network is denied access to stream a game because the school's doing it, I'm going to raise hell. Because there's a difference in quality. Like the school should definitely try to do it, especially if it's a student-run thing. Then definitely, by all means, you should do it. But you should not deny actual professional media from covering your game because they're much better at it, especially in the area, like in terms of like camera work or whatever. Covering a high school hockey game with a fairly wide angle lens is not particularly difficult. The camera goes left and right. But in terms of play-by-play, there is a huge difference between.
Or you don't have any.
Or you don't. Yeah, if you have any, there's a huge difference between somebody who's never done it before and somebody who does it for a living. So, you know, if that's a trend that continues next year, where like actual media broadcasters are denied access because the school's already going to be doing it, I'm going to raise hell because that's not right. But I'm hoping that that's just, you know, we have, you know, protocols this year and we don't want to let too many people in. But if it continues next year, I'll have a problem with that.
Are they getting
that brings up our good buddy Chad Holmes, who does it for a radio station.
Yes.
Well, you don't even own a radio. You listen to his feed on because their radio station is over the internet.
Yeah, their broadcast towers can't be more than like 15 miles from my house, but I listen to their feed on the internet because I don't own a radio.
So and how hard would it be for Chad Holmes to bring along an extra guy with a little camera to just add a video feed to the game that he's already broadcasting?
It should not be, and that's how. I don't know the call letters of the Radio Plus Info. That's the station name, Radio Plus Info out of Fond du Lac. I don't know their call numbers off the top of my head. They used to just do on the radio broadcasting, but you know the radio. It's also streamed on the internet, and at some point it clicked in their minds that hey, we can put video with this audio that we're already doing, and now all of a sudden you have a full broadcast. So that's what they do now.
Yeah.
Not every game because you still need a cameraman and stuff like that. But now that means besides having video with the radio broadcast they were already doing, they're also broadcasting games now for streaming that aren't on the radio. Maybe there's a conflict that night with something else that has a higher priority, or it's just maybe not the greatest game in the world for their particular schedule. Like they always, if it's Springs against the Cardinals in Fond du Lac, that one's always going to be on the radio. But if it's Springs against somebody from outside the area, it might not be. But now those games are streamed online, whether or not they're on the radio. So with the streaming, they're fine, and then it's another revenue stream. People are still buying ads because people are still listening. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's some schools that are actually quite adept at doing those streams like that with the audio and the video, and I mean, I think as time goes on, they'll get better, but I agree with what you say, like if Rick Franke gets denied doing games for Cooley Region, that's BS, because he's a great broadcaster and they do an awesome job. Well, you can't because X school is doing the game live stream, so you can't.
I'm hoping that particular situation was just for this year, and next year, after everybody's vaccinated and things should be back to normal-ish, that doesn't happen. But if it does happen,
well, even the thing is Rick Franke has been there forever, and he's covered a lot of their games.
Yeah,
I mean, this is a guy who's pretty familiar with the teams. He's very familiar with hockey, and there's a difference. If it's somebody who's done hockey,
he did the Verona-Wanakee sectional final. Neither of those teams is normally a team Cooley Region Sportsnet covers, but somebody asked him if he would do it. And they had the advertisers lined up to get the rights fee paid, so they did it. I mean, for the NFHS network, like the WIAA did not have, or Quincy Media did not have TV crews at all 6 of those sectional finals, so they went out to those professional streamers, and that's who was doing, or not the state semifinals, all 6 of those. Like the WIAA doesn't have 6 TV crews for hockey, so they were talking to those streamers from around the state and doing them. So if you paid close attention to the Superior Lakeland game at Spooner, you probably recognized the people talking as the broadcasters from IFAN. I don't think they ever identified themselves as such. They were the NFHS network, but you know who they are at this point if you follow that stream. These people are professionals and they're very good at what they do.
Yeah. The one thing that I gathered from all your guests that you had all year, though, talking about doing streaming and stuff like that, I think Brianna Seibel said it too, and probably a couple other coaches, is that they felt pretty comfortable doing the Zoom practices or training or whatever. And I think that's something that'll probably stay, because a lot of times it's hard to get everybody together for a Sunday night practice at 7:00 or whatever. And I think that stuff will probably stay, but who knows what's going to happen with the game streaming or the game broadcasts. You just don't know.
What's a great case for Zoom practice is a day when school is canceled and all school activities are canceled, and then suddenly the coach sends out a link for optional video practice on Zoom.
Yeah.
Kids don't have to show up. School was canceled, but optional, kind of like optional team activities in the NFL. We all know how optional they are. If you're Aaron Rodgers, if you're Aaron Rodgers, it's optional. If you're a second string offensive tackle, it's not optional.
Yeah, you better be there.
Well, if you guys want to go ahead and talk about
one last thing about the WIAA.
Okay.
Hang on, MJ.
Well, I want to. In the 20 years we've been doing this, I can't recall an occasion where the WIAA has actually asked Wisconsin Prep Hockey for anything. This year they did. Wisconsin.
There were a couple of times that they asked for an apology.
This year, Wisconsin Prep Hockey provided live stats online for the state semifinal games. The official stats were the stats that we entered. Thank you to the WIAA. They've never asked us for anything. This year they asked. I didn't even ask the rest of the team. Todd Clark sent me an email. We were talking about something else. Hey, is this something you guys can do? I didn't even think about it. I just said back, yes. We will do that. And then I had to work on the logistics of actually making it happen at 6 state semifinal games that we weren't going to be at. So I worked with, I asked Brian Brandt and Mark Thorne, I'm like, what are your suggestions on this? And BJ said, get with the coach and the athletic director of the hosting team and find somebody who can, do that for you, and, we'll go from there. So I emailed the athletic directors and coaches for all 6 teams. I will say that 3 of the games I entered myself. A combination from the broadcast and their official scorer sending me a text message of the score sheet every time they wrote something down. So they take a penalty, they take a picture of it, send it to me, and I would enter it into the stats. The other 3 were scored at the arena by people there, but 3 of them I did based on text messages and watching the broadcast. So, but we got them all done. Only one game was really poorly scored, but we got it fixed in the end. I spent about half an hour texting the visiting coach after the game, like while he was on the bus. I'm like, I'm sure you have something better to be doing. He's like, I'm on a bus, it's fine. Fixing the score sheet. So we got that taken care of. But yeah, I was kind of happy. The WIAA has never asked us for anything before, and this year they did, so that was kind of nice.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to Shafransky yesterday, and he is, said, hey, you guys did a great job this year, and we really appreciate it. So kind of following up with what you said, I think, Bill, you will agree because you mentioned it. I think in our early days, there was a little bit of this between our group and their group, and I think we have been working together a lot better now, and we see, kind of what they're trying to do, and they see what we're trying to do, and we're, trying to make it all good. So hopefully that keeps going.
It's easy for everybody across the state to hate the WIAA because you don't agree with what they did, and you don't agree with this, and you don't agree with... It's very easy to hate the WIAA, and we've all done it on many times. None of us wants to go back to Madison for the state tournament. I think all of us want to go to Green Bay for the state tournament and play it at the Resch Center. It's nicer than the Alliant Energy Center. It has better seating. It's just nicer all around. The hockey is played there basically year-round, whereas the Alliant Energy Center sees ice for 2 weeks at the beginning of March. But that decision is, one we'll complain about forever, and we may never see eye to eye on. Plus, the Resch Center doesn't want to give up Disney on Ice. So it's easy to hate on the WIAA. It's easy to hate on the WIAA, but there are times when they're just in an impossible position.
Hudson.
Crash, are you yelling at your cat?
Yeah, he's trying to knock shit down on the
well, if you know who Treasure was cheering for during the state tournament, his cat is named Hudson.
Yeah, let me see if I can find my shirt. I don't know where it is, but I have a Hudson Raider T-shirt, and I was gonna wear it, but that's from about 25 pounds ago. It doesn't fit so good anymore.
Well, let's move on to the state tournament. The boys' side will start in Division 2. Will go in the same order that they played the championship games in, because that seems like it makes sense. Superior beat Lakeland 4-1 on Thursday. Springs beat Somerset 5-1 on Thursday, and then Springs beat Superior 4-1 in the championship game. That game, Springs, I mean, they did in both games. Yes.
Right. Before you start with that game, can I bring up the semifinal game? Because the girls, actually I watched both of the girls' semifinal games on Wednesday, but unlike a normal state tournament, all 4 of the boys' semifinal games were at 7 o'clock on Thursday.
Yes.
I watched the Superior versus Lakeland game, and it was a good game. It was tied 1-1, and there's just a pivotal moment in that game where Max Toyola got the puck to the neutral zone, just undressed Superior defenseman, went in on Jamin Durfee, and faked one way, got Durfee to slide all the way out of the net, and then cut the other way. And they didn't have replays, and I don't know what the heck happened if he lost control of the puck or whatever, but he had like a wide open net, and the puck didn't end up in the net. Superior defenseman picked up the puck behind the net, threw it up the ice, led to a 3-on-1 going the other way. Superior scored what ended up being the game-winning goal. It went from 2-1 Lakeland to 2-1 Superior in about 15 seconds, and that was basically the game at that point. It was even the write-up that they had in the Superior paper. I mean, the guy who ended up scoring the goal, he was in the neutral. He thought they had just gotten scored on. Then all of a sudden, here's the puck going the other way, and fine, let's go. But yeah, just the key moment in late in the second period in that game.
Yeah, that just goes to show. I mean, like you said, 15 seconds, and it goes from a +1 for Lakeland to a +1 for Superior, and all the momentum and all the wind has gone out of the sails of Lakeland, who thought they were going to take a lead. So yeah, that's huge.
And I've been trying to figure out how to say this name for a couple of weeks now. I think it's Masaizva.
Masaizva.
Their goalie and then one of their defensemen, I believe. They're both Masaizvas.
Yeah.
They both looked strong in the game against Mosinee, the sectional final, and I thought their goalie played pretty well against Superior. But they couldn't crack Durfee. And I said going in that I really like Jamin Durfee. I hate saying if you ignore these games, his stats are great when someone's overall stats aren't great, because his overall stats for the season was like a 909 save percentage, which is not, stellar. But if you ignore Eau Claire North, Hermantown, and Duluth East, his save percentage is probably much closer to like 930. I don't like saying ignore those games, but that was Eau Claire North's.
Eau Claire North was the first game of the year.
It was Eau Claire North's 8th game and Superior's 1st.
Right, and Duluth East and Hermantown are two of the powerhouses in Minnesota.
Hermantown is currently ranked number 1 in Minnesota's lower division. I don't believe Duluth East was in the top 10, but it doesn't matter if they are. They're going to make the state tournament anyway. So yeah,
during one of the, I think it was I was watching the sectional final. One of the announcers accidentally came up with a good name for Masaizva. He mispronounced it as Masaizva. So that'd be a good name for him. Masaizva, good name for a goalie. And put save right in there. But anyway.
Yeah, that was the turning point in that game as Bergler described it, and that one ended that way. The Somerset Springs game, that one was the Caleb Bentz show. In the end, Springs won that game 5-1. He still had a 912 save percentage because he faced 57 shots. That's a lot. That's a busy goalie. Springs outshot them 15-3 in the first, 18-4 in the second, and 24-4 in the third. The gap, because we saw it in the final as well. Springs is fast, top to bottom. They're just fast. They're not particularly big, but they're fast and they're skilled. And Somerset couldn't keep up with them. They had a couple nice chances. Noah Bailey had a goal. I liked Antonio Gomez. I liked him last year in their state tournament games and in their sectional final. I liked him again this year. I think he's a good hockey player, and we'll probably. I don't think he's a senior. He's only a junior, so we'll hear his name again next year. There's only 2 seniors on that Springs team or Somerset team. One of them is their goalie Caleb Bentz, who was first team all conference in the middle border this year. But yeah, that game, there was just Springs was too fast, and then that was true again in the final. Springs outshot Superior 40-12 en route to that 4-1 win. They were just too fast. Any little mistake Superior made with a pass or stick handling, whatever, Springs was just on them like right away. This was it's like your best defense is a good offense kind of thing. Springs is just relentless on offense. Like, I have no idea what Springs' defense looks like in their defensive zone because nobody played there. The whole game is just from the red line forward. It's they're so fast, and like I don't think there was more than a handful of instances of any sustained pressure in the spring zones. Most of the chances that came in on them were 2-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-2 breaking into the zone. You get one chance and then it's over and the puck is going back the other way. Nobody was able to sustain anything on them. They're just too fast.
The first period in that game, well, we were watching the game together. And there was about 2 minutes left and it was still 1-0. And like I told you that, I think Superior is going to be very happy if they can get out of this period just down 1-0, because they were very sloppy in their defensive zone. I mean, they just kept turning the puck over to Springs in their defensive zone. And I said, if they can get out of here 1-0, go in, settle the group down, come back. On the second period, they did. They tightened up their defense. In the second period, that was probably the toughest period that Springs faced. The shots in the second period were 9 for Springs and 7 for Superior. It was a much more balanced period. Superior kept control. They got things under control. There was no scoring in that period, so it was still only 1-0 after 2. But then Superior had the bigger guys. Springs had the faster guys, and you get the bigger guys chasing the faster guys around. Eventually, they're going to wear down, and that happened in the third period where, let's say the shots were 9-7 in the second, the shots were 15-2 in the third, because Springs just wore Superior down with their speed, and that they scored 3 times in that third period.
The same thing happened against Somerset. Springs, like they even mentioned it on the broadcast when Springs got up. I think it was at the 3, maybe it was only even at the 2-1 point, but at one point in the broadcast, the play-by-play asked, does Springs, let up a little, play, more defensive hockey? The analyst was like, no, I don't think they know how to do that. They don't let off the gas ever. It's just relentless attack. And eventually that just wears you down. You can't keep up with it, and unless you can get chances on them where you score and you keep the game close, they will never leave that strategy. At least this team will not leave that strategy. Now, thankfully for the rest of the state, I think it's either 8 of 9 or 7 of their top 9 scorers are all seniors this year, so they're not coming back next year.
Yeah, I think it's 7 of 9. They got Dane Dianovich and
it's 5 of the top
Highland
6.
kid.
It's 5 of the top 6, which is the bulk of it. But even after that, so next year it's a whole different team. We'll finally get to see. Hayden Rising has put up some very nice numbers the last 2 years. We think he's a very good goalie, but next year we might actually get to see it, because he might have to face more than 15 shots a game because the puck's not all down in the other end the whole time. It's hard, and plus it is hard to be a goalie when you're only facing 15 shots a game.
Yes.
Yeah,
they talked about it on the broadcast several times. Goalies get bored.
Yeah, they definitely do, and Bill knows that. I'm sure I saw Bob a couple of times sitting there trying to text to his girlfriend or something during the game, but
you don't know that the teams that Bob played for, other than when he was in Wisconsin, I don't think other than I shouldn't get in trouble playing. They rarely outshot the other team. But they get bored and they also get stiff.
Yeah,
Standing back there.
And that's why you see him always skate off into the corner to stay loose and stuff.
Well, you can't do that while the play's going on.
Well, I've seen him do that.
It depends on how relentless your attack is.
Oh, yeah. Burglar, to build on what you said about going into the third period down 1-0, Superior probably felt good about it at that point, and I was starting to wonder, is Springs gonna kick it in gear here? And then Superior takes 2 penalties in the first 5 minutes, and Springs scores 2 power play goals, and it's 3-0. With I don't remember how much time was left, like 7 or 8 minutes left. And I thought, well, the game's over now. And then Superior, after too long, scores a goal to make it 3-1. But they just, it was a tale of a couple different things. The shots, was it 40-12? Both goalies played very well. I think the save percentages for both of them was about 92%. But when you're facing 3 times the shots, you're going to give up 3 times a goal. And that's kind of what the score indicated. Durfee and Rising both played well. And then the penalties too, like MJ said, Superior had 2 10-minute misconduct penalties, took 10 total. Springs only had 3. So, that's all a part of it. And I definitely agree with what's been said. Springs is just very fast and very talented. And last year and this year is a perfect storm. Next year might be a little bit tougher for them with losing basically 3 first-team All-State players and Welsh, McLaughlin, and Pickard. So we'll see what happens. But this year and last year, they had an awesome team.
I don't know if he'll be first team, but Dijanovich and Grass are both going to be All-State.
In his post-game comments, Coach Welch mentioned the state championship, the state through the youth level that this team had accomplished, and Bob and I talked about that 4 years ago when we were down for we like to cover the Badger Line Conference tournament. We were down there for that, and I was looking at the wall on the Fond du Lac Youth Hockey State Championships, and it's like they got this group, Squirt State Champions this year, Squirt State Champions the next year, Pee Wee State Champions this year, Pee Wee State Champions next year, Bantam State Champions. And I said, that group is going to be getting to high school, like they're either freshmen this year or they're freshmen next year. So whichever school they end up going to is going to be damn good. And I believe the majority of them ended up at Springs.
Well, and as we learned or heard in his interview, Coach Welch coached those guys from mites on up,
which may have influenced their decision to go to Springs.
Right. And that
we're not saying he was recruiting.
It's not recruiting. He coached them from youth until if they want to go to that school, they can go to that school. That's not recruiting.
Right.
No, it's not.
They played from him the whole way up. That's literally school choice. Then that's perfectly fine in my book.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people...
That makes me wonder, is John Welsh coming back next year? When Ty Steffes' kid graduated, he was done. When Tim Ahern's kids graduated, he was done. Is John Welsh done? Is there another Fond du Lac hockey family that has been coming up the last 4 years where another coach is going to take over, stay for 4 years, and then leave? We could probably... I can email him. I email him all the time, but is he done? That seems to be
good question.
The pattern at Springs lately is, they've got... It seems like they have a parent coach group that comes up with the kids and then they leave.
Well, I think Steffes was there for a long time. And
right.
Tim Ahern was his assistant for a long time. It's not like Tim Ahern just stepped in there when his kids got there.
Well, I know, but I mean, he did step out when his kids were done.
Right, but he'd been there for a long time.
I know. I'm just saying.
Welsh has been an assistant for Ahern too, but I don't think he's been in the system for as long as those other 2 guys were.
Well, no, not if you coached those guys up through youth.
Yeah, I think he's gonna stay. I think he's gonna stay.
I hope so. I like him.
Yeah, he's a good coach and a nice guy.
Well, he's no Tim Ahern, but
Well, yeah. No, they're all good guys.
Anything else about Division 2?
Well, I can mention it now or during any of the other summaries is that if you look at shots on goal for the 3 championship games, each of them was very one-sided. But 3 goaltenders on the losing side kept the games closer than maybe they should have been. Hats off to Jamin Durfee in this game. He pulled some out of his butt a couple of times to keep Superior in this game longer than they probably had a right to be in it.
Yeah.
Last year, I was researching a Where Are They Now for all of our boys award winners, Pavelski, Drewski, Dobbins-Beck. And I didn't end up running it because the Pavelski award winners and the Drewski award winners, for the most part, they all played hockey after high school. They went to juniors and then they went to college. Some D3, a lot of D1. Pretty much all of them. Goalies, not a one. I believe Colin Ahern is at UW Eau Claire this year. I believe he's the one of our goalie award winners who got to play college hockey. Jake Kupski at Waukesha graduated right before we started doing the awards. I believe Colin Ahern is the one. And I was thinking about, like, how come our goalies don't get any respect? And eventually it dawned on me that there's only 2 per team. Most teams will carry 3 goalies. There's only 3. Teams got 18 skaters in front of them that are going to dress, plus however many they have on the bench because they rotate a little bit. But there's 3 goalies. So I'm like, we need some more goalies to crack the list. It really bothered me. Wisconsin gets no respect.
When you talk about guys who won that Dobbins-Beck award, I mean, remember the kid from Cedarburg, Matt McCoy.
Yeah,
he's a pretty good goalie. Garrett Larson. Garrett Larson out of Waukesha, another good goalie. You don't hear much about him after they get out of high school.
Well, I mean,
but then again, they're goalies. Who knows what their thought process is?
McCoy was a pretty big kid, wasn't he? Fairly tall, like 6'2", 6'3".
I think he's 6'3".
I know the coaches are infatuated with size for goalies, and I mean, Larson was just a little guy comparatively, 5'10", 5'11". I mean, not a big guy, and no. I think a lot of these colleges look at that and go, he's not 6'2", 220. We don't want him because he doesn't fill the net.
Start hanging your goalies upside down by their ankles.
Who was that? I guess Chris Nell never won the award?
He graduated before we had the award, I believe.
Ah, okay.
And we also had the one kid from Edgerton who came through, Tommy Mose. Tommy Mose.
Yeah.
That was before we had the awards. Okay.
Tommy Mose, he won one of our awards. He won our award. But when I'm looking through these, I use sites like Elite Prospects, which does a great job of following high school hockey players from high school on through. And I don't even see on Tommy Moe's page junior hockey, like even a year in the NA3HL or anything. I don't see anything after high school, and I'm like, it could be wrong. They could have just missed it because I've found other ones they've missed before. But our goalies are not getting the respect that they deserve.
Okay.
Because we've had goalies who are as good at playing goalie as Sam Stang is at playing forward. So I'm just putting that out there. We have goalies who are as good at goalie as Sam Stang is at forward. Sam Stang is a Badger. Where are all the goalies? Now we'll move on to the girls. For the first game, because it was played earlier in the day, University School of Milwaukee beat the Eau Claire area Stars 1-0 in Chippewa Falls. They could not play that game in Eau Claire because UW Eau Claire, I don't remember if it was their men or their women, they had a game that day. So it was moved over to Chippewa Falls. And then in the evening, the Chippewa Falls Menominee Sabres in overtime beat the Central Wisconsin Storm 4-3. And then in the championship game, the Chippewa Falls Menominee Sabres beat University School of Milwaukee 3-2, again in overtime. That was the pick of mine that was the most in danger of being wrong because they played in overtime twice.
Yeah, they were certainly battle tested, that's for sure. And to beat the Storm in overtime to go to state, I mean, that's unheard of, really. Storm is usually, if it's an overtime game, they win the game and they go to, well, in this case, Wisconsin Rapids, but not the case this time. The game between the Sabres and USM was back and forth. USM scored in the first period to go up 1-0. Second period, no scoring. Third period, Chippewa Falls scored, then USM scored, and then Chippewa Falls scored. So, I mean, it's a lot of back and forth, and no one team ever really held command the whole game, even though shots were 2-1, 28 for the Sabres and 15 for the Wildcats. And
well, I thought that Chippewa Falls really did control that game, but they couldn't find the back of the net.
Can I just back up a little bit?
Sure.
The semifinal game, the USM and Eau Claire, the 1-0 game. Out of all the games I thought that one had the cleanest face-offs. That was like totally under control. That was like perfect game, for as far as face-offs go.
Who was the lines person for that game?
Wisconsin Prep Hockey's favorite official, Nick Dowd. What they said on the PA announced that the PA and the broadcast guys kept referring to her as Nick Dowd, who was actually one of the goal judges. They had the names wrong, but was doing lines and dropping pucks in that game. So
I was gonna ask you, did she get married and we just didn't know about it?
No. That game was a good game. I said that I was concerned with Eau Claire's lack of ability to score, and USM kept him out of the net. The championship game was the first game USM lost this year with Molly Jackson net. They were, I think it was 10-0 with the playoffs at that point with Molly Jackson net. So, I mean, even though the ice was tilted in Chippewa Falls' favor, they had to feel good, especially after that. I mean, 10 seconds left in the first period. Emily Mueller picks up a puck on a defensive turnover, goes around the other defenseman, and then a backhand up into the corner from in really close. It's hard to put a backhand there from that spot. They had to feel great, given that was their only shot of the period going into the locker room. Their only shot of the period was a beautiful backhand from in close up into the top corner, like into the top netting on the net.
And I think that was the picture that I had.
Yes.
That was Odell that went like sheet right over her left arm.
That was a beautiful shot.
It was a very nice shot.
Yeah, Chippewa Falls outshot University School 28-15 and never led in the game until the final horn. Well, not the horn, but the final goal in overtime.
Yeah. There was a nice play, I think it was in the first period, where Ms. Hockey Sydney Polzine was charging into the zone with the puck and went through both the defenseman and the ref. Took them both down coming into the zone.
Oh, and Trasher got a great picture of the aftermath of that. I was going through the picture. I saw the referee and the USM player, both laying on the ice, looking at each other like, "What just hit us?"
Number 6.
Yeah, get out of the way. That was a nice play. Ella Osman, she had a couple. I mean, she had the first goal for the Sabres, but she had a couple really nice plays. She had a near goal, just a couple shifts after she actually scored. She had an assist on Polzine's goal to make it 2-2 later, and then the overtime goal. Brianna Bonacontro. Bergler and I both thought the same thing. He said it out loud that she took that 2-on-1. She went too deep. She's too deep. She's given up the play. She's gone too deep. And then she made that pass across. And by that time, the goalie had to commit to her to shoot because she had been that deep. And, the other player, once the goalie has to commit, has a wide open net to shoot at. And Joey Schemenauer did not miss. I mean,
she did not.
He said it as soon as she did. Oh, she's too deep. But, yeah. You know, that's a dangerous spot. You go that deep and pass across, a lot of the time you're going to get poke checked away. But she waited until the goalie had to commit to her on the shot, and Schemenauer had enough clearance from the defender that was between the two of them that the pass could get across.
And Jex did try to break up that pass. She was just a little bit short of knocking that one away.
So then, yeah, overtime.
And
overtime. Always the girls' game in overtime.
Yeah, both goalies played well. Odell and Jex both were between 87 and 90%, pretty even. Not, they obviously they'd like to be in the 90s, 92, 93, whatever, but they both made some really big saves. And again, just like the first game, the fact that the Sabres outshot USM 2-1 and the goalies played equal, well, there's your difference basically in the score. But it was
math is cruel like that.
Yeah. First title for CFM in that iteration. They had made 2 trips earlier as Chippewa Falls, McDonald Central, and the first 2007, 2008, and the first year that they played, 2007, they played Northern Pines in the semifinal game, and they won. It was like 10-2 or 10-1 or something like that. Michaela Hogan had 6 goals in that game for Chippewa Falls, which is still a state record. And I saw her, she was doing broadcasts for, I think it was WOGO, WOGO, during the Chippewa Falls game.
Yeah,
and at one point where they had the scoring, I think it was the second period, I said, maybe you should go out there and suit up and go play. And she said, they don't need me. I'm like, okay, well, and I guess they didn't. It was a nice game. And, I think I didn't really follow it too closely, the semifinals, but USM, to me, it seemed like they were probably going to win this game, coming in. But Chippewa Falls is the real deal. They had a great year, and they ended up winning the state title. So congrats to them.
I think we got to give credit to Tony Menard. He came on this show. He got some karma, and look at that, he wins.
John Welsh
coaches,
too.
John Welsh.
yeah, and Davis Trzinski. Obviously, he don't need it.
Before Burglar said let's invite Trasher, I said let's invite Davis Trzinski. Since we had Tony Menard and John Welsh on the show this year, I said, well, let's just make it the trifecta and add Trzinski. And he said, no, let's invite Trasher. And I'm like, well, that's a step down, but okay.
Yeah.
All right, so MJ, you're saying instead of the Sports Illustrated jinx, you've got the Wisconsin prep hockey bump?
Could be. It's like with Jim Rome. I mean, guys come on their show looking for a little extra karma for, for football, like they're at that weekend. They're looking for a little bit extra, and they think if they come on Jim Rome, they get it. Well, we're not Jim Rome, but
thank goodness.
That means next year we need to, if we talk to Mark Thorne and Brian Brandt again, we need to talk to them about their teams instead of about being presidents of their various coaches associations. Give them
very
a
true.
Bump.
There you go.
WIPH bump.
I like.
You guys
that.
ready to bump into the Division I state championship game?
Sure.
It's getting
the
past my bedtime.
Because all the games were played at 7. The Verona USM game is the only game I didn't watch. I could really only watch at best I can watch 2 at a time, and even then that's iffy. And I was watching not Superior and Lakeland, so I was watching Springs and Somerset and Hudson and Notre Dame. So I didn't watch the USM Verona game, so I can't really give a lot of thoughts on that one, other than the fact it seems a lot like USM came unglued towards the end of the game. You don't like to see that, but there were some misconducts, a game misconduct. There was, some of that. So it looks like USM came unglued in the end of the game. Like, and that game is like the shots in that game are just wild. Verona outshot them 13-3 in the first, and then USM came back 16-9 in the second. But Verona did the same thing they did against Wanakee, really, which is one big period, one big 3-goal period, kind of sealed it for them. Except this time, Verona, it was the first period, and from there they just had to ride it out. And it looks like frustration on the part of the university school took over and erased a good chunk of their third period if they wanted to come back. They had 15 penalties.
I'm looking at the box score right now, and I see that at the 10:34 mark, University School scored a power play goal by Peter Els. Minute and a half later, minute 26 later, Verona got that goal right back. You talk about a momentum breaker right there. And in the third period, they just tacked on one more with just under 2 minutes to go. And, I see what you're talking about because I'm looking at the penalties here. That's not university school hockey. That's not the way they play. So they were off their game, no doubt, on my mind.
And then,
but when you're that school and you're used to getting out on somebody 3-0, you hit you don't hit the panic button. But Verona has a very good goaltender in Caden Grant, and Caden Grant was able to shut it down from there and keep them at bay while his team tacked on an extra 2 goals after the first period.
I've felt this for a while now about both USM and Notre Dame Academy, is that they're both highly skilled, boring teams. They don't play overly aggressive. They stick to their system. They always just kind of stick to their system and expect, because they are highly talented teams, that eventually they're going to win. And I think there have been times where Notre Dame and USM could have both shown a little bit more, I don't know what the right word is.
Urgency.
Urgency. That is the right
urgency.
word. Urgency. And because they're so talented, I don't think either of them has shown themselves to be particularly good at playing from behind.
Because they're not used to it.
Yeah, you have to show that urgency, and I haven't seen that out of them. And then obviously in this one, USM went the other way, where things just kind of devolved. Then moving on to the next one, Hudson and Notre Dame. I picked Hudson. Hudson was my champ, as we saw in the podcast last week. But I said they weren't going to hold Notre Dame to 14 shots like they did the first time. And this time they held them to 12. According to the WIAA's math, and we all know the WIAA's math isn't always great. But this time they held them to 12, and Notre Dame they actually led 2-1 at the end of the first period, but you wouldn't have felt strongly about it. Especially in the second period, Hudson got 2 goals in the span of 31 seconds. And then in the third period, they did it again. They had 2 goals early in the third period, 1:12 apart. And then the last one by Nick Jelic was just icing on the cake. Hudson, they don't have the same kind of speed that Springs does, but they're more exact in everything they do. Springs is incredibly fast and they make good passes. Hudson is fast and make great passes. They're just so precise and exact in everything they do. They didn't put up 47, 55 shots like Springs did, but across their 2 state tournament games, they gave up 19 shots.
Now, Junior, a while back, we had that discussion. I put that out there. I said, look at these years. Hudson wins state this year. Look at this level. They win it this year. Look at this. They win it this year. That talent is at the high school level now. You can say the same thing about Fond du Lac Springs. I mean, look, they won at this level.
Here's the thing. A lot of, especially 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, Hudson won 7 state tournaments, but 3 at Bantam, 4 at Squirt.
Mm-hmm.
Those Bantams aren't seniors yet. They're not juniors yet. They're sophomores. Maybe a couple of them are juniors. They're not going away.
No.
No. Hudson's going to be good for a really long time. And then moving on from the Notre Dame game, moving on to the Verona game. According to the WIAA score sheet, Verona did not have a shot on goal in the first period. We've seen we've seen games at the state. We've seen running time games at the state tournament. We've seen a lot of games at the state tournament over the years. When is the last time you remember a team not taking a shot in a period?
Especially a team like Verona.
Yeah, that's insane.
Well, any team that makes it to the championship game, has got to be good.
Yeah, it's that's insane. And Hudson, I thought Verona was fast. Verona was fast against Wanakee. That was the game that I actually watched of theirs the first time. They were fast against Wanakee. We saw them jump out to a 3-0 lead against University School. I didn't get to watch that one. We know they're fast, and Hudson was faster. Hudson was also bigger, and they handled the puck better. And this is a Verona team that won the state tournament last year, in good fashion, and returned a lot of those guys back this year. Caden Grant is still there. Leo Redland is still there.
Walker
Hessig is still there. Anthony Heinrichs is still there. Nate Jurens is still there. They returned a lot of that state championship team, and Hudson just dominated this game. I mean, 4-0 is not a brutal game or anything, but I mean, the shots, according to the WIAA sheet, were 35-7. In a state championship game, they held their opponent to under 10 shots on goal. That is just stifling, crippling defense.
And you look at their playoff games, what were they scoring? 4 to 5 goals a game. That's what Verona was scoring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Hudson, that's scary good.
Yeah.
Junior, you said that Hudson was bigger, and that's what I thought too. Because I mean, they just look big out there on the ice for some reason. But I looked at the rosters, and I actually wrote this down. Verona had 6 kids over 6 foot tall. Hudson only had 4.
You know what it is?
Each team had a 200-pound player, and that was it. So really, Hudson was not bigger.
Neither one is that big. You know what it is, though, is Verona wears black, and black is slimming.
Yeah, I wear black pants for that reason. Hudson is wearing the white. White makes you look bigger.
Yeah. And, another thing, too, that I thought is that, okay, so Hudson's got a coach that played in the NHL, a defenseman, and he was a pretty good defenseman in the NHL. It just seemed like he has taught that team how to play defensively and to just clog everything up. And it just didn't look like Verona had any space to operate at all. Every time they tried to make a pass, it would get deflected, or they try to make a move and the guy would get checked off the puck, and they just didn't, they couldn't make any advancement into the offensive zone. And
I noticed this late in the first period. There were a couple times when Verona actually got the puck into the Hudson zone, and then when Hudson got the puck back, Verona at best, and it was fairly passive, had one guy forechecking and the other 4 were back on the blue line. It didn't take long before Verona was playing full defense against Hudson. You wouldn't expect Verona. Verona they're an aggressive team. They don't have the speed, I don't think, that Springs had, but they played Springs to a 1-goal game earlier this year. Verona's an aggressive team. They're an attack-first team, and they had 1 guy on the forecheck and 4 guys back. It's just Hudson is so exact.
I'm looking here at the numbers on the game. Go ahead, Junior.
I think for Hudson, whereas Springs is attack, I think for Hudson, defense comes first. They have the guys who can score and move the puck, but they don't. A lot of times you'll see, especially in high school, you'll see a team make an offensive rush, and the shot will go wide, or the goalie will deflect it into the corner, and then the team gets a rush back the other way, and they have an advantage because all of a sudden 3 forwards for the attacking team are buried in deep. But that didn't seem to happen. Hudson never seemed outmanned going back the other way. Not really. Is it Sam Istishin? Is that how you say it? Sam Istishin? ISZCZYSZYN Estician. Because however they said it on the broadcast just butchered his name, and I'm like...
You know what it is? It's Isaacson.
Isaacson?
Because I asked Joel about this one before. It's like, Joel, what is this? He said it's pronounced Isaacson.
Well...
You should buy a vowel.
Yeah, no.
I just think, if you're gonna broadcast their games, kind of like me with, I already forgot how to pronounce Misaisva for like, and you got to ask how to pronounce it, because like even when the guy tried twice during the introductions to say his name right, and I just saw him sitting there during introduction shaking his head.
They should
Tom
give him
Bennett would have got it right.
Give him a new nickname. They call him iChart.
Looking here, looking at the first period, Verona, you said they got held to one shot. But I think the thing that was key here was Hudson got 2 goals. They got to Caden Grant, which surprises me. The first one, a guy just turned around and threw it at the net. And
it was a good shot, but that first one was just, he got the puck in the high slot, turned and fired. I mean, you have a good sense of, like, you're not going to aim a shot from there. You know where you are on the hockey rink. But he just turned and fired, and it was a beautiful shot into the corner of the net. And based on the replay, based on how late Grant's reaction was, I don't think he saw the shot taken. He didn't see
I don't think he did either.
Because there was a defenseman and another forward standing right in front of him. And he was trying to get around him, but he didn't see that shot taken. The second one, there was only one angle of the replay where you could actually think I saw what happened, but the rest of them, the angle of the camera didn't quite work right. I think that puck hit his glove and deflected off the side of his glove and hit his stick on the other side and went in.
Was that the one where the picture of him sitting next to the net and the puck is in the net, or was that in the third period?
I think that was that one.
I think so too, and I think that picture was worth 1,000 words, because he just seemed to be like, but he seemed to be kind of frustrated after that. Like, shit, I'm doing my best out there, and I gave up 2 goals in the first period, and I think that affected him a little bit the rest of the game.
Well, he played well. He played well the rest of the way. The puck was in their zone the whole time.
You look at one of the things one of you guys made a point of was in this game power plays. Both these teams had good power plays, and neither team scored on them. Verona 0 for 3 and Hudson 0 for 5.
Yeah, both the PKs did really well, and obviously your best penalty killer is your goalie. I don't like that saying, but you hear it a lot. A really good penalty kill doesn't need a brilliant goalie behind them all the time, but I don't know how many shots Ripplinger actually took on the Verona power plays. I thought Hudson did a really good job in front of him to keep the puck away. Caden Grant had a couple nice power play saves, but even then, the Verona PK acquitted themselves very well in this game. Especially, considering the shot differential, you'd expect Hudson would have at least had 1 power play goal on 5 chances. But yeah, they never really had. They had one really good chance off of a face-off, I think, where Hunter Danielson got the puck right off the draw and walked in on the side of the net with Grant all by himself, and Grant made the save on that one. But I think that was their best. I think that one was on a penalty power play. I think that was their best power play chance.
Caden Grant was also our Dobbin Spec goalie of the year.
Deservingly so. I mean, you don't get to be Team Wisconsin's goalie purely on reputation. There are years that might get you on the team, but that doesn't make you the starter. He's a fantastic goalie, but they might have needed 2 of them in the net, the way the ice was tilted in this one.
When you look at this one and you see that Hudson scored 2 goals early, and you guys talked about a little bit of frustration on Caden Grant, maybe frustrated that they got 2 early on me. Do you think ever at some point Verona says, you know what, we may be in a little bit of trouble here?
I think when I saw that they were only forechecking one guy and had 4 guys back, I think they knew they were in trouble. So there, there's that, and just, I mean, getting through a period without recording an official shot on goal. I mean, they may have had one in there that the scorer missed. I mean, we all know counting shots is the worst part of scoring. Everybody has a different opinion. I mean, we all know what the rule book says. If the puck would go in the net, it's a shot. If it wouldn't go in the net, it's not a shot. A ping off the pipe is not a shot on goal. A goalie making a wild glove save on a puck that would have sailed over the net is not a shot on goal.
Nope.
But, from that angle, judging what is and is not a shot on goal is difficult, and it's the worst part of scoring a game. So, did they really take 0 shots on goal in the first period? I don't know. But when you get through a period and the official score says you've taken 0 shots on goal, that has to weigh on you. To know that you didn't make the opposing goalie do anything that's got to weigh on you.
You look at the shots. First period 11-0. Second period Hudson 10, Verona 5. Third period, I mean, it's still a 2-0 game. 14 for Hudson, 2 for Verona. It's hard to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
and they traded penalties in the third period.
Like I said at one point during the girls' semifinal between the Storm and CFM, I was just kind of being cheeky about it, but I pointed out that the Storm was out shooting Chippewa Falls Menominee by a decent margin, and then I pointed out that they also got shot in their last 2 sectional games, and I'm like, I don't think they care that they're being outshot. But there's a difference between being outshot 30-20 and a difference between being outshot at that point 21-5 after 2 periods for Hudson and Verona. I mean, there's a difference between getting outshot and there's a difference between being destroyed in the shot department. And Hudson, they dominated. It was like as fast as we saw Springs was, and that was an impressive set of games they played. I was so impressed with the way Hudson played. It was just dominant. There's no other word.
And like I said, they're not going away. I pulled up the WIAA championships from 2019, where they won at 3 levels of bantams: their first bantam team, their second bantam team, their third bantam team. Bantams are based, for the most part, bantams are 8th and 9th graders. Around here, they're mostly 8th graders because the 9th graders are going to go up and play JV on the high school team rather than play bantam. They want to, get in with the high school program as soon as they can. So I don't know if they stay at bantams more
Hudson
or just if Hudson is like Superior was back in the day, where they can have, a varsity team, a JV team, and still have that many freshmen left.
I believe if you look at the 2019 WIAA, that Hudson also won the midget state tournament that year.
That'd be like club, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was Shaw.
Or at least played in it.
Yeah, but you look at that. I mean,
anyway,
it's coming.
Well, yeah, and their peewees their peewees didn't win, but their squirts won at all 3 levels. So, again, you get to high school, so your squirts are, your freshmen and sophomores. While maybe your juniors and seniors aren't that good, you're going to have more freshmen and sophomores on the team that year. They're going to be good for a while.
You know what I find amazing, probably most amazing about everything you just said, is that they had 3 squirt teams. How many organizations do you know that have 3 squirt teams?
I'm
Janesville
sorry.
does.
They had 4.
They had 4, and they all won.
Yeah, they had C1 and C2, and they both won. They won 4 squirt state tournaments.
Jeez.
I mean, Rapids used to have 2 teams at each level. Now they're lucky to field 1. I mean, so for Hudson to have 4 squirt teams, wow. That bodes very well for the future.
Hudson's midget team didn't win the state tournament that year, but they had a midget team that played in the state tournament. So besides having a varsity team and a JV team, they had enough guys to field a U18 club team. And then they won 3 Bantam state tournaments.
That's crazy.
Scary.
Mm-hmm.
I know Hudson is a bedroom community for the Twin Cities, but come on.
How much of Hudson, though, is influenced by being that close to Minnesota? I guess at one point you could. I guess at one point you could have said that about Superior too.
Let's just say some, at the very least, some.
There is at least some, and I'm not joking when I say Hudson is a bedroom community for the Twin Cities. I know. I have
20 minutes away.
I have several friends that I made in college. That at least for some time, not all of them still do, worked in the Twin Cities and lived in Hudson. They were Minnesota people. They worked in the Twin Cities and they lived in Hudson. It's not uncommon. And they have, I haven't seen it myself, but I have heard tell of just this beautiful sports training facility they have in Hudson. Obviously they have Davis Drewiski now on their high school boys team. She's the assistant, but Karen Bai is, working with their girls team. I mean, Karen Bai was every bit Cameron Granado is the one everybody remembers from that first women's Olympic team, but Karen Bai was every bit as important to that team's success as she was. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's a lot going for Hudson in Wisconsin right now.
Well, in terms of playing at the youth level, it's like it was in Superior. I mean, playing at the youth level, there are 20 associations in Minnesota that are closer than anybody in Wisconsin to Hudson. And the Twin Cities are closer than any city in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean, if you go down,
they play a lot.
I mean, if you go down 94, 90, whatever highway that is, 94.
94.
If you go down 94 to Hudson, it is, I think, 35 minutes to Menominee. It's less than that to St. Paul. In the outer St. Paul suburbs. I've driven that block of 94 many times.
Yeah, it's 10 minutes to Woodbury.
Yeah. So
10 minutes to
that's all interstate.
It was all about Stillwater.
Yep.
Wonder how Trasher knows about Stillwater.
The ponies.
So yeah, that's Hudson in a nutshell. And that was, I mean, I expected them to win, but 19 shots in 2 games is absurd. That's a level of defense I don't know that we've ever seen at the state tournament.
Junior, you did get to watch that game, right?
Yeah, I watched them all. We watched them all at Burglar's house because his TV's bigger than mine.
Okay, let me ask you this. How many times in that Hudson game did you see Hudson get out and block a shot? Did they block many shots?
Verona didn't take many, to be honest.
I don't think so.
Even attempting?
I don't think so.
It wasn't a game where Verona took 25 shots and Hudson blocked 15 of them. That wasn't happening. It did happen. There were blocked shots, but that wasn't the bulk. For the most part, Verona didn't have it in the zone, and if they did have it, it didn't stay there long.
No, they weren't taking shots from the point. If they had the puck, it was down deep and maybe got a shot and then boom, going back the other way, which pretty much was the story of the game.
Verona had a freshman defenseman that got a lot of ice time that I liked. He took a couple penalties.
Number 11?
David
Dina?
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked him. He seemed like he was really fast.
The 2 penalties he took, I'm the part of the reason I was a defenseman, but I would never be a delete defenseman, is my dad always said, I'm not mean enough. There are penalties sometimes you have to take as a defenseman, and in my mind on the ice, anytime I took a penalty, my team was in a worse position than when they started. It's because yes, there were games where the only time the other team scored was because I was in the penalty box. Not often, but it had happened. But David Dean, he took one was called slashing and the other one was called hooking. Those were both penalties where the Hudson guy was just too fast and he had to do something to slow him down. But I thought, freshman, I thought he looked really good. He had a nose for being in the right spot. I thought he looked really good. Verona has a lot of seniors now this year after their championship last year, I believe. But they've still got Verona always has guys in the pipeline. So, but I saw him a lot. He looked good.
Yeah, he played a regular shift on the blue line, and that's what I thought too. I thought he looked really fast. He was always heading for the puck. I think he'll be a pretty talented player as time goes on.
He's going to have big shoes to fill. Nathan Jurens, I believe, is a senior now. So, he's been, I believe he was a finalist each of the last 2 years for the Drew Whiskey Award. So
I can tell you that he's been at junior camps, and he's been one of the guys who's been talked about a lot, and some teams really liked him.
Jurens and Osting, both on the blue line, are both names that I think everybody knows at this point. But I like that Dina kid. We can't just talk about how dominant Hudson was. We have to say what Verona did well, and I liked him. I think he's a player to watch going forward.
Yeah, he was. A lot of times freshmen would be kind of timid. He was not at all.
It's hard to be high school hockey is so much faster than bantam hockey.
Oh yeah.
Especially at the state tournaments. For sure.
All right, well, that's all 3 championship games. We'll be back at some point, hopefully this week, to present our girls' end of season award winners. We were not able to do that this last week. Dell, who tabulates that and runs the girls' side of the awards for us, was indisposed and then trapped in Texas with everything that was going on. So once we get Dell back, we'll be able to do the girls' award presentation. We don't know what it'll look like yet, but if it's a stream like this, we will definitely stream it on YouTube. So everybody who is nominated can turn in. Trasher's got his cat there because it's a Zoom stream.
Say hi to Hudson.
Hey, Hudson.
It's like, what are you idiots doing?
It's a cat named Hudson, but it wears Verona colors.
He thinks he's a dog, and he's wanted to be on the podcast, so now we can say that he was.
So, Trasher.
Yes.
Are you going to pull a Brett Favre and unretire, or are you just going to pop in every now and then if there's something you want to do?
Well, let's get that story written next week, and consultants make good money. Maybe we can look at it that way.
Yeah, Trasher's going to write a story.
Now.
He's going to write a story for us on what it took to bring the state tournament together in Wisconsin Rapids. I told him
in his backyard.
He needs to get on the city council there because Wisconsin Rapids is a good location. They just need to build like an 8,000 seat hockey arena. We'll be good to go.
Well, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. They just spent how many million on their aquatic center?
Given that there's 4 of them in the entire state and the other ones are in Madison, Milwaukee, and Green Bay.
Yeah, probably
Did you
not.
tell that as a consultant / freelancer, we pay by the word for the articles?
Mm-hmm.
To make sure it's long.
Yeah. I'm actually going to talk to Jim Arnold tomorrow. Jim Arnold is the Southwood County Rec Center manager, facilities manager, and he's been there for a long time. He does a hell of a job. And one of the points of the story is going to be that it's a family affair because his wife and daughter and son were all there all day yesterday. His son Cooper, I don't know how old he is. I'm gonna say he's like 6 or 7, but if he was tall enough, he could drive the Zamboni right now. That's how much he knows about it. And he's when Jim told him that we're gonna go to the rink in the morning, we got to go pretty early. He said, "What time?" He said, well, we're going to leave at 7. Cooper was up at like 6:30, raring to go already. So, you know, a family affair. Like Pat McDonald, Jeff Gunderson, the coaches for Lincoln, they played a big part in it. And there were a lot of players and like the athletic director and volunteers and stuff. So, I mean, you realize how many people we see doing that kind of stuff in Madison, and they probably did it with, you know, not nearly as many, but I mean, they only had one day, but still, you know, they did a hell of a job. Hats off to them, you know. And I told Shafransky that too. I said, for, you know, putting this all together basically in a few weeks or whatever, they did a heck of a job. So I think it was a success, and the story, I think, will kind of tell that a little bit more so people can see what really happened to make this all a reality.
And I saw Coach McDonald introduce the teams at the banquet, the boys' state tournament banquet, and I asked Bergler, when did Pat get so old? And he pointed out we've been doing this for 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, it sneaks up on you, right?
It does.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't seen Pat in a long time, so.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like that long ago. Pat McDonald was an all-state player at Eau Claire North, you know, and now he's been coaching, and Rapids Lincoln was a perennial powerhouse, and you know, the 2000s, they went to state like 5 or 6 years in a row. I mean, so stuff happens, I guess, and now all of a sudden you turn around and it's like, God damn, I'm ready to retire in a couple of years. So, but anyways, they did a heck of a job, all the volunteers. They pulled it all together. They made it ran pretty smoothly, and hats off. Hell of a job.
Yeah. I think, you know, from the TV experience, it probably went about as good as it could at any local rink. I didn't see, I mean, just because of the camera placement you have to do with the smaller rink, there were times when there were heads in the way, but they were few and far between. I thought everything went really well. Everything looked really good. The only real question I got was what's with the logo on the ice, the hazardous waste logo. There were a couple people that are not, like, I got some questions on Twitter from people who are out of state who are watching, and they're like, you know, we do ours, like Minnesota, we do ours in the Excel. Well, like, what local rink are you guys at? And I had to explain why. First off, we can't play where we normally play. Dane County won't let us. So, you know, this year it's at a local rink, limited attendance, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you people aren't laboring under the delusion that Minnesota is going to let you have the Excel Energy Center for your state tournament this year, are you? I mean, that would be a hell of a thing. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
The NHL's not letting their fans in there. They're not going to let 19,000 people in there for a high school hockey game.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh, and they even, it came in handy, but they even managed to get the overhead cameras installed, which was very important in the girls' championship game. Because the first goal that was scored by Chippewa Falls McDonald, when the goal was scored, it looked like a goal. When they played the first replay, it looked like the puck never crossed the line, and it was only the overhead camera that actually clearly showed the puck hitting in the netting behind the pipe. Without that overhead camera, I believe that goal probably would have been disallowed.
Yeah, once you saw it in the overhead camera, you could kind of see it from the normal camera view, but even then it was tough. But yeah, that puck must have just snuck in and hit that pad and then kicked back out right away. That pad right behind the pipe and kicked back out. So yeah, the overhead camera, that worked very well. It probably worked better at Southwood County. Because most of those cameras have a digital zoom, not an optical zoom. So by being closer to the net, there's less zoom artifacting.
Yeah, and they really didn't use the replay that much. I think there was, only maybe 3 or 4 times the whole tournament?
I remember the two. There was the goal by Osman, and then they used one. They had a replay on the Verona non-goal where the player crashed into the net, and then the whistle got blown early, like that puck. There was no possible way that puck could have gone in the net. Both the goalie and the Verona player were filling up all that space.
Yeah, I the only thing that I thought was maybe a little bit suspect was they took a lot of time on that. I think it was the first goal. I think, don't they have like a rule where they say it's only going to be like 2 minutes or something?
Yeah,
it seemed like it was a lot longer than that.
I didn't time it. It felt longer than 2 minutes to me, but
yeah, I think it was. But still, they got it right, and that's all that matters. And
that is the most important thing. People,
yeah.
Lots of people complain about replay, and sometimes I do too. But if it makes a wrong call right, then it's the right thing to do. Human error should not determine a state champion when you have the means to fix it.
Yeah. Well, we actually don't even know if it made a wrong call right, because
the officials on ice didn't make a call.
A call made on that play.
Hmm.
I mean, because they were saying they didn't signal goal. The goal light never went on. So we don't know if it was actually called a goal in the first place.
But they got it right in the end.
They did.
Good point.
Good on you. Oh, and then the last thing tonight. Chris McGurk retired. We put a story about it. It's more popular than either of our state championship stories, or any of our state championship stories, or state semifinal stories. In fact, based on the numbers, I believe it's the second most popular post we've had this season, behind just a one-off Facebook post congratulating Pavelski on getting his 800 points that blew up. 20-some thousand people saw that one. But yeah, Chris McGurk, retiring official, is the second most popular thing we posted this year. At least as far as Facebook impressions go.
Fits right along with him being our second most favorite official.
Yeah, and I think it goes to the point that, like, officials matter. And if you're a good one, and people will like you, and a lot of the WIAA and WIAA both need more officials, and officials do matter. And the officiating, I think, at the state tournament was really good, and we need to see more officials. So, if you're thinking about it, go to one of the. They'll have USA Hockey ref.
Some little seminars.
Yeah, the ref seminar in the fall. They probably have virtual ones all the time right now that you could go to. Go and check it out if if you're at all interested in being a ref. I just saw a story USA Hockey posted just the other day about a 12-year-old ref. So 12, he's what, a peewee?
Yeah.
12-year-old ref who's like, the photo is him with the whistle, arm pointed. It was all, like a real ref, except that he's 12. And it was talking about his, why he's an official and all that. And he talked about what Bergler has mentioned many times in regard to officials. He thinks it's making him a better hockey player. He understands the game better. So if you've got a kid who's playing hockey and wants to be a ref, that's cool too. Squirts like it when like bantams ref their games instead of old guys. Mites like it when peewees ref their games instead of old guys. So, take a look.
It's going to kind of also be the passing of the torch, since my kid's high school career is done now. And the next one of the WIPH crew is Junior going to be your kids.
Well, one of them.
I think we discussed which one it was, but
yeah,
still,
I don't think my son's going to stick with it, so it'll probably be my daughter.
I'm kind of working on an article about it. I mean, it's how for him it may have been an emotional year, but as a parent, it's also a very emotional year when the end starts to come near, and you realize that it's like a roll of toilet paper. The more you get to the end, the faster it rolls, and this year was kind of like that.
I mean, we saw it with Trasher just a couple of years ago when Bubbles graduated. After her,
that's 6 years ago now.
Her 4 years with the Point Rapids Red Panthers, and I think a lot of people at that time breathed a sigh of relief, because when they came to Wisconsin Prep Hockey on Wednesday, and
it wasn't a goalie story.
They didn't have to read a Point Rapids Red Panthers recap.
Oh, yeah. And to go a little bit further, my son played all from the time he was 9 all through high school. And then after he graduated, that's when Emily started playing. So it was like 22 or 23 straight years where I had a kid in either youth hockey or high school hockey. And like MJ said, man, when it gets to the end, there's a lot of emotion, you know, and for the seniors this year, especially, this year sucked, you know, it just truly did. And I know you guys talked about it all the time, and I feel bad for them, but in the end, you know, to have a state tournament, I think that helped make things a little bit better. So we at least had that.
Yes.
You know, and there was even some schools that didn't even have hockey this year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, we're very fortunate, and a lot of schools are very grateful that they were able to pull that off for a season. And you know, some kids got cut a little bit short on it. Some kids got the whole deal. So
I mean, some states
it is what it is
start.
at this point.
I mean,
right.
Minnesota started mid-January. Michigan started while we were in sectionals. So I think the WIAA did a good job.
Yeah, and as strange as this year was, I mean, ending up with, you know, Superior in the championship game, I mean, that made it all seem like normal. You know, Superior is supposed to be in the championship game. They've been in like 38 championship games.
Yeah,
but they hadn't been there in 5 years.
In 50 years, I think it was, they've been in 38 state tournaments.
And of those, they've been in the championship game like 27 times, 28 times.
Yeah, and one other thing that is kind of weird is that Hudson's season ended in the same rink last year and this year, but only one was a state final. Last year was the sectional final between Chippewa Falls and Hudson. That Chippewa Falls won. Hudson lost last year, and they come in this year and they take Verona to win the state title. So good on them.
All right.
Guys, it's bedtime.
All right.
Yes, sign us out, MJ.
All right, folks, we will have the girls' WIPH awards. We'll be coming back. Watch the website. We'll get you exact times and a date, and we'll come back and we'll get those announced. And I'm sure Dell will be looking forward to doing that. And for the guys, Bill, Michael, and his cat, I'm Mike Hammett. We'll see you shortly here on This Week in Wisconsin Prep Hockey.